Do more by doing less. With me, Charles Alexander, for small business owners, startups, and busy folks.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
For 12, 13 years, pre-pandemic, and yes, I'm tired of talking about it just like you are, I would always teach a starting a small business workshop every single month, primarily because I'd have people left and right that wanted to pursue their dreams and throw off the shackles of the corporate world and blah, blah, blah. The easiest thing, quite frankly, for me to do was to get everybody in a room at the same time, share the good news, the bad news, and everything in between. And then if they were still prepared to do it, we could have a conversation. The tool I always relied on was this entrepreneur quiz, and something I, quite frankly, just made up, but it was based off years of experience of working with over 2,000 entrepreneurs. And I also discovered that it wasn't necessarily just for startups. In fact, it worked much better for people who had been in business 10 years or 20 years. At some point, we believe we know everything there is to know. We stop making efforts to improve, and we just assume that if we're not good at something, that it's just fine and dandy, and we just move on with our lives. So what I'm going to share with you is this entrepreneur quiz and discuss it primarily from an existing business owner's standpoint. What I tell people is that we want to get better at our weaknesses. And I know so many other people say, you outsource the weakness, you play to your strengths, zone of genius, insert cliche here. And I love that. I love focusing on doing what you do best, but I also like for you to not ignore your weaknesses completely. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal was probably a 40% free throw shooter, and he could have spent a little extra time in that department, even if he had to adopt the Rick Barry granny shot. That's what I want you to do. The quiz, and everybody loves quizzes, by the way. I mean, we went through this phase at our house where my oldest daughter was into Harry Potter, and we had to all figure out if we were Slytherin, Gryffindor, or I don't know. I ended up being neither. I'm Hufflepuff, but I still don't quite know what that means. So for you, we're going to go through each of these together quickly. Grade yourself 1 through 10. 1 is not you. That's your lowest confidence. 10, that's the highest confidence. Anywhere in between is anywhere in between. So what I want you to think of is when you score yourself 8, 9, or 10, that's your strength. Great. That's what we want to put out front. You probably won't be 8, 9, or 10 in all of these, but the ones you are, that's what makes you money. The things that are below a 5, don't ignore them. Don't just say, that's just not who I am. It's not how God made me. Let's find a way to increase that and get it up to a 5 or a 6, and at least get you to a core competency level. Easy enough. Let's just talk about, are you good at creating and implementing a plan? Most of the small business owners I work with are great at thinking about things, talking about it, praying on it, and sleeping through it. They're not necessarily great about creating a plan. If you have a goal, and you all should have a goal, I've got a podcast on goals, create a plan to achieve that goal. Think back, I've told this story so many times, I'm going to tell it again because it's so good, about a cruise that my wife had us go on. We had been to Disney World a few times, and now we were set to go to the big time, a Disney cruise. The Disney cruise is all things you could think of, all the characters, all the shows, and they do it upright. Every detail is thought of from top to bottom. On a cruise, you should do no thinking. You should do no planning. They move you around like cattle from show to show, time to eat, time to get off the boat, whatever, man. Great. I don't have to think for a week. Good. You do it, Disney. And I'll pay you multiple mortgage payments in order to make it happen. However, my wife, the ultimate planner, Sarah Alexander, the accountant, the spreadsheet queen, had a spreadsheet for this cruise, told us what we're going to do each and every day, how to meet all the characters, do all the fun things, and how we're going to dress up every night. And yes, we dressed up every night. We were that family. I lived through it. I mean, we were Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, and she made me dress up as Grumpy. Still don't know why. She had done more planning for this trip that needed no planning than most of the small business owners I work with do for their own livelihood. If you have a goal, you need a plan. Create it in a reverse engineered format. And you got to be dedicated once you create that goal. And so many people don't understand dedication to a goal. They'll brag about getting up early, staying up late, working through lunch. Look, man, we'll all do that. If you're checking your email at 11:30, that does not necessarily mean you are dedicated to a goal. It might mean that we've not planned correctly. Being dedicated to a goal means doing a lot of things you are uncomfortable with, even after you've gotten very comfortable in your own business 10 years into it. Are you going to push yourself outside of your comfort zone to figure out how to do things you don't like to do? What's the next area for your business that needs to improve in order for it to take off? Do you need to start figuring out how to network at a higher level? Do you need to join a high ticket coaching group? Do you need to learn a new aspect of marketing that's digital and you don't like the computer? Figure these things out and become dedicated to taking those next steps. While we're talking about that, your level of industry experience matters. And I'm not talking about running the business side of things. I'm talking about, do you know what's going on new in the world you inhabit? I got a lot of entrepreneurs that get stuck in the way they've always done things. And you know that that's the perfect way to never move forward. A great example right now, so many people in the digital world, in the copywriting world, in whatever it is, photography, videography, not all, but a lot have their head buried square in the sand. We're in the AI revolution. We see this one happening. So many times in the past, we've let the cool things kind of sneak up on us. We're watching this happen in real time, and I have a lot of people that are burying their head in the sand and not paying attention to it. Find out what's going on in your industry overall, not just on a technology basis, but what does the economy hold for? What does the future employment hold for? What is your future for it? Now, back to the business fundamentals. Got a lot of small business owners that get to a point where they're comfortable in their business and they don't want to learn any more about managing other people, marketing their business, or reading financial statements. They got just good enough to get by. This does not mean you need a 4-year degree. And I get told that so many times, like, Charles, wait, I just didn't go to school for this business stuff. Hey, a lot of people didn't. And in fact, a lot of the ones that did think that qualified them. And in many cases, it does not translate. In terms of management, did you continue to learn more about not just managing other people, but leading other people, how to properly outsource, how to delegate, how to check in on folks? Did you create SOPs? In terms of marketing, did you just get by on a few fundamental ways that you learned through networking at the Rotary or doing some aggressive Facebook campaigns? Have you branched outside of that? Did you learn a little bit about copywriting, landing pages, or any other aspect that you're uncomfortable with? Big one is financially. Did you ever learn how to read a profit and loss statement, or how to talk to your accountant, or to read the ratios that come with a balance sheet? That does lead into leadership qualities. This is not a leadership podcast. I do have a fantastic interview with Sean Patton coming up, leadership guru, Green Beret. This dude knows his stuff. What I want you to think of is simple. Do you have other people that work for you? Yes? No? The ones that do, would they consider you to be a good leader? Not a manager, a leader. And by leader, real simple rule of thumb. Do you lead the way you would want to be led? And that's the easiest way for you to always think of this. When you are assigning tasks to somebody, do you just give them kind of a blank rundown without any real direction? Do you check in on them? Did you give them freedom? Did you give them an exact deadline? Did you ask them, did they need support? Leadership for yourself counts as well. Are you getting better health and wellness wise with your own family, with your own friends, with your own self-improvement? Do you have the leadership qualities it takes to grow your business? That also leads into decision making. I always laugh when I say decision making because so many people, myself, struggle with analysis by paralysis. A great way to figure this one out is if you go out to eat with your family. And this is where I fail regularly. This past week, we ended up at Logan's. Not my favorite place, but whatever, it's fine. The whole family went around. Lane knew what he wanted. Lily, Ava, even Sarah, who struggles with this, got to me, and I borderline had to flip a coin between, what was it, like a little petite sirloin steak or sirloin tips. Seriously, that's a problem. At Logan's, it's fine. Get you another role, move on about your business. In real life, don't do that. For me, I do well with the larger decisions. Big life decisions, snap of a finger. The smaller ones, struggle. Don't be like that. And do you enjoy the competition? So many small business owners I talk to, when I ask them about their competition, grin ear to ear and say, Charles, you just don't understand. I don't have any competition. Well, nobody really does what I do the way I do it. Really? Because you're a financial advisor, and I just Googled financial advisor, and there's a dozen within about a 5-mile radius. It looks like you have competition. I'm not telling you to copy the competition. That doesn't work at all. I often use the analogy. You remember those first training documents you ever got for your first job? You know, they had you open up this 3-ring binder manual and you looked at the typeface and it looked like it was hammered out on an old IBM somewhere and photocopied, or rather Xeroxed. That's the term we always used. Every time known to man, and nobody ever went back and updated the original, especially since it was still calling things the word processor. That's what it looks like when we copy the competition. Whoever started the very first handful of websites, the handful of copy material, writing material, the rest of us have just copied it. And the first person didn't even do a good job. Don't copy the competition, but understand who they are, what they do, or why you are unique against them. If you can't tell the difference between you and the competition, your customers can't either, and they won't have a reason to buy from you. What about your own willpower and self-discipline? This is different than the planning piece that I talked about. Willpower is often wasted. We spend so much time trying to make those little decisions that we don't save them for the big decisions. Use your willpower wisely, your self-discipline. First thing in the morning, make the good decisions, the big decisions, work on the things that are meaningful to moving your business. And don't spend hours a day piddling around with minor things that don't help you move the ball forward with your text, email, phone calls, meetings, committee commitments, and people. Do you like people? I've had so many small business owners start businesses to get away from people, which is mind-boggling. You don't have to be an extrovert. So many small business owners are introverts, but you have to learn to understand other folks. Did you do a disc profile for your team in-house? Have you figured out some of the complexities of dealing with the emotions of customers or even vendors? Do you listen to them? Do you enjoy being around them? If not, this is something that you can work on. There's coaches, there's books, there's just effort that you can make, which does lead into teamwork. Teamwork does not just mean you are on a specific team for an organization or someone else. If you're the leader, you're the coach. You have the team under you. And maybe that team is small. Maybe it's 1 or 2 people. Maybe it's mostly contractors. Do they feel like they're on a team together? That's your job. It's up to you to get the right people in the right position on your squad, so to speak. Find out what they're good at. Find out what they like. Find out what they don't like. Are you meeting with them at least, let's say, once a week? And I'm not a big fan of meeting just to be meeting, but get the team together, even if it's through Zoom or any other manner, to make sure everyone is on the same page. Financial stuff. If you own a business and you are ready to take the next step, sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. Cliche, but true. Financial sacrifices for a startup is so easy to understand. I have discussions with people that want to launch a business so they can pay off debt, which is, I tell them, you may just want an extra job to pay off the debt. The business might incur new debt that you didn't want to have in the first place. But as an existing business owner, are you still willing to talk to your family? Say, hey, family, maybe we don't do a Disney cruise this year. Maybe we stick it around here and we do a little river cruise for fun, because mama or daddy has to take a big step in this business to really push forward to do the things we want to do long term. Same with your existing business. Will your coworkers or your employees, get them on board with being able to make the occasional financial sacrifice to buy the new piece of equipment, to save up for the seasonal part of the business, to buy the new location. So that's it. Down and dirty. How did you fare? If you're 10, 9, 10s, 8s, great. Life is good. If you got some 4s and 5s, got a couple of things to work on to get to a point where they're not weaknesses. You don't have to excel at them. They're not all going to be 8s and 10s, but that's what we're looking to do for you. How do you get to a point where we can figure out how we're doing in our business, how to grow it, how to move forward. As for you, I don't know if this makes you Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, or the one that I can never remember. But as for me, I appreciate the fact that this entrepreneurial quiz helps not just startups, but existing owners, and I hope it helps you too. Wait, don't run off just yet. Do me a big favor, hit the little plus sign to subscribe, scroll down wherever you are, and leave a very honest 5-star review and tell other people why they should be listening. And if you don't, an angel may in fact lose its wings.